The girl was flying on her sword when she suddenly crashed into an oncoming plane. Strangely, she was completely unharmed while the plane shook violently as if it might crash. Just when everyone thought they were doomed, she caught the 400-ton plane with one hand, and with a gentle push landed it safely on the ground. Seeing the plane trailing smoke, the passengers ran off in terror. In the chaos, someone shoved the girl and she fell into a man's arms. When she saw his face, she realized he looked exactly like the man she had been searching for. She called him her husband, but the man coughed up blood the next second. She checked his pulse and knew he would not live through the day. She raised her hand and cast a spell. Moments later, the man opened his eyes, and the legs that had been paralyzed for years miraculously worked again. But the bodyguards thought she was hurting him and opened fire without hesitation. The girl was shot and fell to the ground. The man shouted at the guards, calling them fools, and held her crying. Then the girl opened her eyes again. She was no ordinary person but an immortal who had lived for thousands of years. With a cup of tea she could bring rain to a land that had been dry for 3 years. With one finger she could raise a mountain of gold. The next second she was struck by lightning and realized she was facing a tribulation of love. If she failed this trial she would die. Luckily her 3 personal attendants had already found the perfect man for her named David. They even prepared a wedding ceremony and waited for her to descend the mountain to marry. But the moment she descended she ran into the man she had been looking for. To thank him for saving her life she asked if he was willing to marry her. David agreed without hesitation and they went straight to get a marriage certificate. When David's father heard the news he was furious, because David had long been betrothed to the ancestral master, and marrying someone else would bring punishment on the whole family. The father did not know that the girl standing in front of him was that very ancestral master. To ease everyone's fears she admitted she was the ancestral master, but no one believed a young girl could be an immortal who had lived thousands of years. She took out a bank card saying it had been personally given to her by their ancestor, and told them to verify it at the bank. At the bank the staff said to withdraw such a huge sum the account holder had to be present, but that ancestor had been dead for many years. David's parents immediately accused the girl of lying. To prove herself she cast a spell and the ancestor who had died a century ago appeared in the bank. The whole family dropped to their knees in terror, but the girl grabbed the ancestor by the ear and made him testify. Before he could finish speaking his spirit faded. She explained that a spirit could only stay for 1 minute a day or it would vanish forever. At that moment David's father received a call from the 3 great families. They said the ancestral master had been taken to a hotel to wait for the wedding with David. They decided the girl in front of them had to be a fake, and even suspected her of using sorcery to trick everyone. Soon they arrived at the wedding venue, and to avoid offending the ancestral master, David's father forced him to break up with the girl, but David confessed in front of everyone saying she was the only one he loved. The clan leader was furious and said David was already promised to the ancestral master, then ordered someone to teach the couple a lesson. The girl snapped her fingers and everyone dropped to the ground. At that moment an old woman was carried in claiming she was the real ancestral master. It turned out the 3 great families had sent people to pick her up at the airport. They assumed an immortal over 1,000 years old must be an old lady, so they knelt down and treated her as the master.